On a recent edition of NXT, the Undisputed Era's Kyle O'Reilly defeated the likes of Timothy Thatcher, Cameron Grimes, Bronson Reed, and Kushida in a slightly convoluted gauntlet match to win a chance to take on Finn Balor for his NXT Championship at TakeOver 31. But, depressingly, there is something magnificently unspectacular about all of that. Judging by online response, and where else is there to judge, this was a massively popular decision, as was restrapping the champion that oversaw the original elevation of the brand from unknown quantity to barely hidden gem half a decade ago. Man, time really does go fast, doesn't it? Balor vs. O'Reilly is as good as brand spanking new. Reflects significant change at the top of the card, and interestingly now looks set to main event a card free from the bells and whistles often deemed necessary to try and sell these super shows in the current era. If all of that sounds like a slightly complicated set of qualifiers about why this particular upcoming event kicks off a bold new era in the journey of NXT, blame all of that on those in charge. We are NXT might remain the calling card of the still converted, but never has that felt quite as patently false. NXT categorically isn't NXT anymore, or if it is, it's time to reclassify what those letters now represent, my friends. But a new era cannot be forged without understanding how the old one crumbled. I'm Gareth from What Culture Wrestling, and ladies and gentlemen, it's official. A new era has begun in NXT. On the 18th of September 2019, NXT made the enormous leap between two very different networks, moving from its safe haven on WWE's streaming service to the cut and thrust world of television with USA. Both sides were theoretically playing things quite safe here, even if their goals were a little bit different. Building off a relationship with Vince McMahon spanning decades, USA had a relatively good idea of what they were getting in the black and gold brand. Numbers weren't exactly always revealed from how the show did for WWE, though weekly top 10s sometimes listed Table for Three, among others, outperforming it, which wasn't exactly a promising sign. But TakeOver sold out buildings comparable to Monday Night Raw and the network's soon-to-be former property SmackDown Live. And that was another wrinkle in the arrangement between WWE and USA, as the blue brand was about to shift to Fox on Fridays. A week bookended by McMahon programming was about to be halved. Don't know if that's a half, but that's what I'm going with. Until NXT slotted quite nicely into the schedule on Wednesdays. The night it would always air on the WWE Network. But that is not why it aired on Wednesday, nor why it moved at all. AEW Dynamite was set to premiere on the 2nd of October on TNT. That NXT got a 2-week head start that was patchy at best, probably due to the fact that everything was so rushed and the company then had to split the show between USA and WWE Network, and it was all a bit weird, speaks to how desperate WWE were to marginalize the success of their new opposition, before they were even acknowledged as such. A year later, and that audience-splitting marginalization is just about the only thing left about the once-beloved three letters that seems to function precisely as intended. NXT had already advanced beyond what it once might have been. A developmental/hideaway brand first, and a bloody good touring arena show second. But it had comfortably achieved that by around 2017 at the latest. The ethos of the show had switched a little since then, but the TakeOver specials sold out just the same. Remember when arenas used to sell out? Oh, I missed that. During a golden era for babyfaces and breakout stars between 2014 and 2016, the show gradually morphed into a WWE polished super indie, with wrestlers and matches that had already defined the genre for PWG and similar organizations. At TakeOver, and sometimes even on the network show, NXT was better in contests taking place anywhere in the world. New Japan was in a period of unparalleled critical and commercial acclaim, but the black and gold brand routinely argued the toss for Match of the Year candidates thanks to many of the cult favorites and internet darlings that were getting mainstream exposure for the very first time. Truly, it was the best of times. Perhaps most importantly of all, though, was the perception battle NXT had won during its own formative years. Long-standing WWE fans had gravitated towards the show because it looked looked and felt more like the one they'd first fallen in love with, compared to the messy, overproduced modern-day main roster. That very title was an important division, until the Wednesday Night War took its very first depressing casualty. In broad terms, the biggest fear most NXT hardcores had about the move was that Vince McMahon would pollute the untainted show with the same foibles that had made elements of Raw and SmackDown borderline unwatchable for the last 20 years. That being said though, SmackDown has recently been a bit of a joy to watch, so there's still hope, goddammit. However, what eventually materialized on this new USA NXT was a slightly more complex, but no less of a problem. Losing weekly viewership battles to Dynamite triggered levels of panic booking hitherto unseen on the Black and Gold brand. In the old days, the formulas and patterns on the show were occasionally used as a stick to beat it with, but yet another incredible takeover typically justified the rigid process. Problem was, it was a bit easier to see when it was no longer being followed. Capitalizing on a Survivor Series won by NXT, something Simon Miller remembers all too well. Sorry, man. The show earned strong viewership victories with what proved to be the last of their major long-term payoffs. Rhea Ripley's NXT Women's Championship triumph over Shayna Baszler was carefully crafted over the summer, while Keith Lee's star shone so brightly after bouncing Adam Cole into space that it seemed like a Royal Rumble win, or at the very least elimination of Brock Lesnar, was in the offing. Imagine the size of that pop. Of course, rule-proving exceptions poked through elsewhere, but the frantic new pace and extra hour had exhausted resources, ideas, and the once sacred tenet of stability. All of it was the beginning of the end, and it has taken nearly 10 months for the show to catch up with the rest of the broken world and establish a new normal. Empty Full Sail is a challenge to promote a heated 2-hour wrestling show in, but WWE are the market leaders of a market that has, for better and worse, found ways to adapt, so that excuse only stretches so far. March saw the world sent inside, but do not be fooled. NXT's weekly show has been on a significant decline from December's peak before then. TakeOver 31, from its branding through to the eclectic but excellent choice of main event, feels like a conscious effort from Triple H to try and reclaim some control from the two-pronged pressures brought forth by network television and his dodgy old in-law. That number, 31, is nothing and yet absolutely everything. It doesn't announce itself as an obvious theme like a 30th anniversary or a mid-90s Floridian house. It doesn't try to make good on bad times, be they in or out of the company's control. It does, however, continue a tradition the chairman himself insisted get the axe on the main roster right around the time the golden era of NXT shone brightest. 31 was the number 2015's WrestleMania insanely wasn't permitted to boast about. McMahon deemed it too old-sounding. Prestige be damned. Having lost credibility, the babyface veneer, and a substantial amount of respect, Triple H needs prestige more than just about anything else in the world right now. He needs fans to trust the workers and the process just like they used to before his baby became fodder in a quest to maintain a monopoly. Finn Balor versus Kyle O'Reilly is more than just two very un-WWE guys likely to have a very un-WWE match on a show that will aim to be the most un-WWE of NXT's year. It's an outstretched hand to those that have lost their love for the brand, and the cutest act of defiance Hunter could realistically get away with. But every little helps, right? Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting to note that Finn Balor hadn't actually won his first NXT championship before the aforementioned show of shows featured more Triple H per minute than any other wrestler on the card. Back then, The Game, who wrestled Sting, had a years-long entrance for that match, and then returned later for a segment with The Rock and Ronda Rousey, still wasn't convinced there was many better than himself for the stage. Now, 5 years on, he's come to understand how few have managed to reach that level with his help. If this attempt at a new era fails, well, only Vince McMahon's incandescent rage will be as loud as the audience's calls to abandon the existing model of NXT for good. Oh, how much can change in a year. Damn you, 2020. Damn you. How do you feel about NXT officially entering a new era? Let us know in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button. Also, be sure to head on over to whatculture.com and click on some more awesome articles just like this outstanding Michael Hamflett edition we have based this video on. The guy's awesome. Check out his stuff. I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling, sat with a lovely chair that I balance my microphone on, and I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon.